man.
One more meter and I'll have you shot!
In the bleak final days of World War II, deep within the Lapland wilderness, a solitary prospector stumbles upon a life-changing gold vein. His journey to deliver his fortune to safety becomes a relentless, brutal struggle for survival when he crosses paths with a retreating Nazi SS unit. Unleashing a legendary one-man killing spree, he faces down overwhelming odds with unwavering resolve, proving that even in the face of absolute evil, some men simply refuse to die.
Shoot the man. Bula!
Can somebody tell me what the fuck is...
Nothing. It's all good.
Still down there.
It's nothing, just an old plane. We might have.
Hey guys, today we're diving headfirst into the absolutely bonkers, bloody, and brilliant Finnish action flick, SiSU. This movie is a masterclass in relentless pursuit and just pure, unadulterated, unkillable protagonist energy. We're going to break down every glorious, bone-crunching, and explosion-filled moment of Aatami Korpi's epic battle against a whole battalion of Nazis. Get ready for some serious grit and a hero who just absolutely will not quit. I put a lot of work into these, so if you like what you see, a like and a subscribe is always appreciated. No worries if not. Our story kicks off in 1944, deep in the desolate, war-torn landscapes of Finnish Lapland. The Soviet Union is already pushing the Germans' pack, and what's left of the Wehrmacht and SS are trying to extract themselves from Finland, leaving scorched earth in their wake. But we're not focused on the grand strategy just yet. Instead, we open on a grizzled older prospector named Aatami Korpi. He's out there all by his lonesome with his trusty shovel, pickaxe, and a very loyal little dog. The silence of the vast open tundra is almost deafening, broken only by the rhythmic scrape of his tools against the earth and the occasional panting of his canine companion. You can practically feel the biting wind and the endless solitude. He's been at this a long time, clearly, his face etched with years of sun and struggle, his hands calloused and strong. The man looks like he's wrestled bears and won, then used the bear fur for a blanket. Day after day he toils, a solitary figure against the monumental backdrop of the Finnish wilderness. He's digging, sifting, panning, enduring the elements with a stoicism that screams, "I've seen some things." Then, one fateful day, there's a different sound. Not the dull clink of rock, but a distinct, heavy thud. His pickaxe hits something solid, something unnatural. His eyes widen ever so slightly, the first hint of emotion we've seen. He digs faster, dirt flying, his dog watching with keen interest. And then, there it is. Not a single nugget, but a whole vein. A shimmering, gleaming, glorious seam of gold. It's not just a few flakes. It's a motherlode. The camera holds on the gold, then on Aatami's face, a slow, dawning realization blooming into a quiet, profound joy. He carefully extracts some of the larger pieces, the weight of them substantial in his palm. The glint of the gold is almost blinding against the muted tones of the landscape. He lets out a single guttural sound, not a shout, but a deep, satisfied grunt that speaks volumes. Years of hardship, endless searching, all culminating in this moment. He packs it all up, a massive amount of gold, into several heavy saddlebags, loads them onto his horse, with his dog trotting faithfully beside him. His journey out of the desolate plains has begun, but little does he know, it's about to become a desperate fight for everything.
As Aatami rides, the quiet is shattered by the distant drone of an engine. A Nazi motorcycle patrol, 3 strong, comes roaring over a ridge. They're part of a larger retreating unit, likely scavenging and terrorizing what little is left. Aatami, ever the pragmatic, tries to avoid them. He ducks behind some rocks, hoping to be unseen. These aren't the kind of folks you want to invite for tea, especially when you're carrying enough gold to buy a small country. But alas, they spot him. They pull up, guns pointed, the sharp crackle of their engines slicing through the air. The lead Nazi, a sneering, brutal-looking sort, barks orders in German, demanding to know what Aatami is doing and, more importantly, what he's carrying. He sees the heavy saddlebags, his eyes narrowing greedily. Aatami, stoic as ever, offers no words, just a cold stare. The Nazi, clearly used to compliance, loses patience quickly. He kicks Aatami's horse, making it whinny in distress. That's a mistake. Aatami's eyes flicker. You can mistreat Aatami, sure, he's probably used to it, but you touch his horse or his dog, that's a different story. In a blur of motion, Aatami acts. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't even flinch. He grabs the nearest Nazi, slams him against the sidecar, and then, with shocking speed and precision, disarms the next one, using their own gun against them. There's a sickening crack as one soldier's neck twists at an unnatural angle, the thud of his body hitting the ground. The other two are stunned, but not for long. Aatami moves like a phantom, a living weapon. He uses a shovel, yes, a shovel, to dispatch one with a brutal swing to the head, the dull crunch echoing in the sudden silence. The last one barely gets a shot off before Aatami is on him, the struggle brief and brutal. A quick, efficient stab with a knife, and he's down. The air hangs heavy with the metallic tang of blood and the acrid smell of gunpowder. Aatami doesn't even pause. He retrieves his horse, calms it with a gentle touch, checks on his dog, then methodically strips the dead Nazis of their weapons and ammo. He's not a hero, he's just a man protecting his property. And that, my friends, is our introduction to Aatami Korpi, a man who truly embodies the concept of SiSU.
He continues his journey, but the brief skirmish has changed things. He knows he's no longer just a prospector, he's a target. Soon enough, the ground begins to rumble, a deeper, more ominous sound than a motorcycle patrol. A full Nazi SS convoy appears on the horizon, tanks, trucks, and armored personnel carriers stretching across the barren landscape. Leading them is the particularly nasty SS Obersturmführer Bruno Helldorf, a man with a perpetually grim expression and a penchant for brutality. He's overseeing the scorched earth retreat, burning everything in their path. Aatami spots them from a distance, quickly calculating his odds. They're not good. He can't outrun a tank. So he tries to blend in, to let them pass. But fate, or perhaps just Helldorf's sheer paranoia, intervenes. Helldorf spots Aatami. He's just one man on a horse, but Helldorf is suspicious of anything out of place in this desolate war zone. He orders his men to stop. The convoy grinds to a halt, a symphony of creaking metal and diesel engines. Helldorf, through his binoculars, sees the heavy saddlebags. The same greedy glint that appeared in the eyes of the motorcycle patrol flashes in his. He dispatches a small unit in a half-track to investigate. Aatami tries to bluff his way through, to ignore them and just keep riding. But the half-track cuts him off, guns trained on him. Helldorf approaches, a cruel smile playing on his lips. He demands the gold. Aatami naturally refuses. He just stares, his silence more unnerving than any threat. Helldorf, incensed by this defiance from a lone old man, orders his men to seize the gold. This is where things get explosive. As the Nazis move in, Aatami reveals his hidden ace. He's riding through a minefield. Yes, a minefield. He knows this territory like the back of his hand, every rock, every dip, every hidden danger. He's been using the horse's instincts to guide him through a path only he knows. He urges his horse forward, weaving expertly through the deadly field. The Nazis, unaware, follow right into it. A deafening boom rips through the air as the first half-track hits a mine. Metal shreds, dirt flies, and the screams of men are quickly silenced. Chaos erupts. The other Nazi vehicles scatter, trying to avoid the same fate, their commanders bellowing orders. Helldorf, furious, orders the tank to fire on Aatami. The main tank, a panzer, swivels its massive turret, the groan of its gears sickeningly loud. A single shot, a massive crump, as the shell explodes right behind Aatami. The force of the blast throws him and his horse violently through the air. You think, well, that's it? Gold gone, prospector gone. But oh no, dear viewer, not Aatami. He hits the ground hard, rolling, but he's alive. His horse, sadly, is not. A moment of genuine sorrow crosses his face as he looks at his fallen companion. But grief can wait. He grabs the saddlebags, ignoring the searing pain, and scrambles for cover, the sounds of more explosions echoing around him as the tank crew fires wildly, triggering more mines by accident. He takes off on foot, the heavy gold weighing him down, but his determination is absolute. He's bleeding, battered, but still moving.
Helldorf, seeing that this old man is more trouble than he's worth, orders his entire convoy to give chase. This kicks off a frantic pursuit across the barren plains. Aatami uses the terrain to his advantage, ducking behind rocks, crawling through crevices, always moving towards a specific goal, a rickety old wooden bridge spanning a deep gorge. He knows this bridge, knows its weakness. The Nazis are closing in, their shouts and the rumble of their vehicles drawing ever nearer. He reaches the bridge, exhausted but resolute. He plants a makeshift explosive, probably something he fashioned from Nazi ordnance he liberated earlier, beneath the bridge. As the first of Helldorf's vehicles, a truck full of soldiers, starts to cross, Aatami triggers the charge. A colossal kaboom tears through the air. The bridge splinters and collapses, sending the truck and its occupants plummeting into the gorge below, their screams cut short by the crashing timber and rock. The explosion echoes for miles. Helldorf's offensive is temporarily halted. He stands at the edge of the newly formed chasm, his face contorted with rage. This one old man, has not only cost him men and vehicles, but has also stopped his retreat. Helldorf makes a vow right there and then. He will get that gold, and he will kill Aatami Korpi personally. This isn't just about the gold anymore, it's personal. And really, isn't that always how these things go? Someone just had to make it personal. Aatami, meanwhile, is in a bad way. He's injured, profusely bleeding, and has lost his horse. But he still has the gold, and he's still's got his dog. He finds a temporary refuge, likely a small abandoned shack or a natural cave, and begins to tend to his wounds. He's a survivor, clearly. He pulls out a bottle of some rough-looking spirits and a needle and thread, and proceeds to stitch himself up with a grimace. The crunch of the needle going through his skin, the sharp intake of breath, it's all incredibly visceral. This isn't your Hollywood hero who barely gets a scratch. Aatami is feeling every single impact.
However, the Nazis are not easily deterred. Helldorf sends out search parties. Aatami's dog, ever vigilant, alerts him to their presence. He knows he can't rest. He has to keep moving. He spots a small plane, a reconnaissance aircraft, flying overhead. It's too high to be an immediate threat, but it tells him the Nazis are still on his tail, searching from the air as well as the ground. This guy is getting the full VIP treatment, honestly. Eventually, weakened by his injuries and exhaustion, Aatami is found. He's ambushed by a group of soldiers, his attempts to fight back valiant, but ultimately futile against sheer numbers. They beat him, kick him, the sickening thuds of their boots against his body making it clear they're not holding back. They strip him of his gold, that crushing moment when he sees his life's work being taken. Then, in a truly barbaric act, they hang him from a makeshift gallows. The rope tightens around his neck, his body convulses, the sounds of his struggling breaths growing fainter and fainter. They leave him there, a warning to anyone else who might defy them, confident that this nuisance is finally dealt with. Helldorf watches the hanging with a grim satisfaction, convinced he's won. But Aatami Korpi is no ordinary man. As he hangs, teetering on the brink of death, a group of captive Finnish women, forced to follow the retreating convoy, notice him. They're being driven in a truck, subjected to the horrors of war and their Nazi captors. One of them, a fierce young woman named Aino, sees something in his eyes, a spark that refuses to be extinguished. She recognizes the symbol of SiSU. They're powerless to directly intervene, but their silent witness is a testament to the brutality. However, the Nazis, in their arrogant haste, haven't quite done the job right. The rope isn't perfectly tight, or maybe Aatami's neck is just made of pure, reinforced concrete. As the convoy moves on, the hangman's knot slowly begins to slip, just a millimeter at a time. His body, almost lifeless, twitches. He's gasping, struggling, his eyes wide with an impossible will to live. He manages to get his hands up, fingers scrabbling at the rope. The effort is immense, every muscle screaming in protest. It's a truly harrowing scene, full of the sounds of his strained breathing, the creak of the rope, the wind whistling past him.
He barely manages to get a hold of his hunting knife, which had been overlooked, perhaps hidden in a boot or a sheath against his leg. With agonizing slowness, he raises the blade, the cold metal a beacon of hope in his despair. He saws at the rope, inch by agonizing inch, the rough fibers grating against the blade, his bloodied hand slipping. It takes forever, an eternity of pain and exertion. Finally, with a strained gasp, the rope snaps. He falls, landing hard on the ground, a crumpled heap of bone and muscle. He lies there for a moment, completely still, the silence almost deafening after the frantic struggle. Then, with a slow, deliberate groan, he pushes himself up, gasping for breath, clutching his throat. He's alive. He's not just alive, he's furious. He's not going to just let them get away with his gold, and definitely not with trying to kill him. This is the ultimate wrong guy to mess with moment, taken to an 11. Truly a man risen from the dead, Aatami sets off again, his resolve hardened to steel. He's patched up his throat wound as best he can, the rough stitching a testament to his sheer will. He needs his gold back, and he's going to follow that convoy. His loyal dog, having waited for him, joins him once more. Aatami tracks the retreating Nazi column. He moves like a specter, unseen, unheard, a shadow moving through the scorched landscape. The Nazis, meanwhile, are celebrating their perceived victory, drinking and making merry in their camp. They have the gold. They think they've eliminated the old prospector. They're feeling pretty good about themselves, for Nazis anyway. Aatami ambushes a small patrol, picking them off one by one in the darkness. He's silent, deadly, using knives, rocks, their own weapons against them. There's the muffled thump of a body hitting the ground, the choked gasp of a dying man. He gathers intelligence, locates the gold, and begins his one-man war. He starts with their supplies, sabotaging their fuel, their communications, making their retreat even more difficult. He's not just killing, he's systematically dismantling their ability to function. One particularly intense sequence involves a small tent where a few Nazi soldiers are resting, guarding a portion of the gold. Aatami slips in, a wraith in the night. The crackle of the campfire, the hushed murmurs of the soldiers, suddenly give way to sharp, brutal sounds. A swift blade across a throat, a muffled struggle, the sickening wet sound of a knife plunging into flesh. It's a ballet of death, efficient and merciless. He uses the darkness to his advantage, the panic and confusion of the waking soldiers, allowing him to strike repeatedly. He's not fighting honorably, he's fighting to survive and reclaim what's his. He's a force of nature, an unstoppable, unrelenting tide of vengeance. You can practically hear the tension in the air, thick and heavy like the smoke from a dying fire.
He continues to chip away at their numbers, like a relentless wolf preying on a weakened herd. The Nazis, initially dismissive, start to grow paranoid. Rumors of the immortal or the one-man army spread through their ranks. Helldorf dismisses them as superstition, but even he can't ignore the growing body count and the systematic destruction of his supplies. He doubles down, convinced that this old man is nothing more than a stubborn fool. He vows to find him and make an example of him. Aatami eventually tracks a smaller group carrying a significant portion of the gold to a desolate lake. He watches them set up camp. The air is cold, the water dark and still. He waits for the opportune moment. As they rest, he strikes. This time the fight takes an aquatic turn. One of the Nazis, a large, burly man, is left alone near the water's edge, oblivious to the danger. Aatami slips into the frigid water, moving silently beneath the surface, a dark shadow in the depths. He emerges suddenly, dragging the surprised Nazi into the lake. The water instantly becomes a battleground. There's a frantic, splashing struggle, muffled shouts, the sounds of fists connecting with flesh underwater, the gurgling of a man drowning. Aatami uses the elements to his advantage, pulling the man deeper, his sheer physical strength astounding for someone who's already taken so much punishment. He holds the man under, relentlessly, until the struggle ceases. He's not just killing, he's making a statement. This is his territory, his war. Another Nazi, alerted by the commotion, comes running, firing his rifle wildly. Aatami, still mostly submerged, dodges the bullets, the zing of them hitting the water around him. He dives back down, only to surface behind the Nazi, pulling him under in a savage headlock. The struggle is brief but brutal, all taking place beneath the surface, visible only as thrashing limbs and rising bubbles. He slits the man's throat underwater, the blood blossoming out in the dark water like a grotesque flower. The silence that follows is chilling, broken only by the gentle lapping of the water against the shore. Aatami pulls himself out of the lake, soaked, shivering, but with a renewed sense of purpose. He retrieves a portion of the gold from the dead Nazis, dragging the heavy bags through the water and onto the shore. He's like a drowned god, rising from the depths, utterly relentless. You can almost feel the biting gold of the water and the sheer exhaustion in his every movement.
He continues his relentless pursuit. He's a one-man army, picking off patrols, sabotaging vehicles, slowly but surely chipping away at Helldorf's forces. The remaining Nazis are growing increasingly terrified and demoralized. They're starting to believe the rumors. This man isn't just tough, he's supernatural. He's the physical embodiment of the Finnish SiSU, an almost mythical figure of resistance. Helldorf, however, is too arrogant and too focused on the goal to see the writing on the wall. He continues to press his men, driving them harder, convinced that he can break this one old man. Aatami eventually catches up to the main convoy again. He finds himself near a bus packed with the captured Finnish women, including Aino, who had witnessed his hanging. They're being treated terribly, a clear example of the Nazis' depravity. Aatami sees this, and his focus, which was purely on his gold, now shifts slightly. He's not exactly a crusader, but he also isn't going to let these women suffer if he can help it. This is where the movie shifts from a personal vendetta to something a little more broadly heroic, even if Aatami would probably scoff at the label. He initiates a daring assault on the convoy. It's a full-on, no-holds-barred firefight. Aatami uses the weapons he's scavenged, a mix of German and whatever else he's found. He fires with deadly accuracy, moving like a blur between cover, taking out soldiers left and right. The air fills with the crack of rifle fire, the thump, thump, thump of machine guns, and the shouts of men. He's a tornado of violence, a one-man wreck crew. The Nazis, caught off guard, struggle to mount an effective defense against this seemingly unkillable force. In the midst of the chaos, the captive women on the bus seize their chance. Aatami's assault creates enough distraction for them to act. Aino, brave and resourceful, grabs a dropped weapon. She inspires the other women. They realize this is their one chance at freedom. With a furious roar, they turn on their captors inside the bus. It's a brutal, close-quarters fight. The sounds are sharp, desperate. The smack of fists, the clang of metal, the guttural screams. They overcome their guards, arm themselves, and then, with incredible courage, they join Aatami's fight against the rest of the convoy. This moment is truly spectacular. The women who were once victims become warriors. They fight with a ferocity born of frustration and long suffering. They mow down Nazis, return fire with surprising skill, and become a significant force against the Germans. Helldorf is absolutely apoplectic. This is no longer just about one old man. Now he's got a whole group of vengeful women to contend with. His retreat has become an absolute nightmare.
The fight is a whirlwind of bullets and explosions. Aatami, with the women's unexpected assistance, systematically destroys more vehicles. One of the most memorable moments involves a flamethrower. A Nazi soldier, desperate, brings out a flamethrower, spewing torrents of fire across the battlefield, the ominous whoosh and roar of the flames making everyone scatter. Aatami, undeterred, uses his environment, his legendary resourcefulness, and a little bit of sheer crazy. He manages to turn the flamethrower back on its wielder, or even better, uses it to ignite a fuel truck, creating a massive fiery blast that takes out a significant portion of the remaining Nazi forces. The heat washes over the landscape, the smell of burning fuel and flesh acrid in the air. This man just doesn't quit. He gets shot, he gets burned, he keeps going. It's almost comical in its extreme commitment to over-the-top action. With most of Helldorf's ground forces decimated, Aatami retrieves the bulk of his gold. But Helldorf, ever the persistent villain, isn't giving up. He still has a final ace up his sleeve, his personal plane. He and a few remaining men manage to make it to the airstrip. They load the last of the gold onto the plane, planning a desperate escape. Aatami, seeing his gold about to literally fly away, can't allow that. He sprints towards the plane, an impossible dash across the airstrip, his exhaustion evident but his will unbroken. He leaps onto the landing gear of the plane as it's taking off, a truly audacious, death-defying feat. The plane struggles into the air, with Aatami clinging on, bullets whizzing past him from the Nazis inside. The wind roars around him, the vibration of the plane's engines shaking his very bones. This is a high-stakes aerial battle with one man versus an entire plane of armed Nazis. He climbs, hand over agonizing hand, across the exterior of the plane, a terrifying climb through the slipstream and the freezing air. He smashes through a window, gaining entry to the fuselage, startling the remaining Nazis. What follows is an incredibly tense, claustrophobic fight inside the moving plane. Aatami, battered and bruised, uses every last ounce of his strength. The small confines make every punch, every kick, every struggle feel incredibly impactful. The sounds are muffled by the roar of the engines, but still visceral, the thud of bodies hitting the bulkhead, the crack of bone, the desperate shouts. He dispatches the remaining soldiers one by one, using their own weapons, even a small strategically thrown hand grenade, the muffled thump of the explosion inside the fuselage adding to the chaos. The plane pitches and rolls as he fights, threatening to throw everyone out. It's a symphony of violence and impossible survival.
Finally, he comes face to face with Helldorf, the arch nemesis, the man who tried to hang him, who stole his gold, who ravaged his land. Helldorf, despite his desperation, is still a formidable opponent. He's armed, he's angry, and he's not going down without a fight. Their confrontation is brutal, a desperate brawl for survival high above the war-torn landscape. Punches connect, the sounds sharp and painful. Aatami, injured countless times over, seems to draw on an endless well of resilience. He uses the confined space, the plane's movements, anything he can to his advantage. In a climactic moment, Aatami manages to gain the upper hand. He's not interested in mercy. He's interested in justice, his own brand of it. He outmaneuvers Helldorf, grabbing him, and with a superhuman effort, throws him out of the plane. Helldorf screams, his body plummeting hundreds of feet to the earth below. The satisfying silence after his scream is brief, a moment of triumph. But Aatami's ordeal isn't over. The plane, now uncontrolled, is plummeting. He has to land it. This old prospector who has just fought off an entire battalion of Nazis now has to pilot a plane he almost certainly has no experience with. It's a frantic, desperate struggle at the controls, the sounds of straining metal and the rushing air creating immense tension. He manages a crash landing, not gracefully, but effectively. The plane skids, crunches, and breaks apart, but he walks away. He always walks away. He finds his gold, scattered but mostly intact amidst the wreckage. His dog, miraculously, also survived the plane crash, limping towards him, wagging its tail weakly. It's a touching moment of reunion and relief. Aatami, utterly exhausted, bloodied from head to toe, gathers his gold one last time. He finally makes it to a bank, somewhere away from the war's devastation. He walks in, a figure of silent, almost mythical defiance, carrying heavy bags of gold. The bewildered looks on the bankers' faces are priceless. He places the gold on the counter, the clinking sound echoing in the quiet bank. He exchanges the gold for cash, a massive sum, and then, for the first time in what feels like an eternity, he speaks. Just one word, in Finnish, but with absolute conviction. SiSU. It's his explanation, his statement, his entire philosophy in a single utterance. The ultimate mic drop. He's not a hero with grand speeches. He's a man of action, of relentless perseverance. His journey has been a testament to the sheer, unyielding human spirit. He endured unimaginable pain, faced down overwhelming odds, and refused to break, not for glory, but for what was rightfully his. He is a symbol of resilience, of a deep-seated determination that borders on the superhuman. Aatami Korpi is the epitome of SiSU, a man who truly embodies the concept that some things, like his gold and his will to survive, are simply unmovable.
The story of Aatami Korpi isn't just one of brutal survival. It's a testament to the unyielding power of the human spirit when pushed to its absolute limits. It reminds us that courage isn't always a roaring speech or a flashy gesture, but often a quiet, stubborn refusal to yield, an unbreakable will to endure, no matter the cost. It's a powerful reflection on what it means to truly fight for what is yours and to find strength in the most desperate of circumstances. SiSU is an absolute blast of an action movie, a relentless, over-the-top spectacle that perfectly blends brutal violence with a darkly comedic undertone. It's a pure adrenaline shot, cementing its place as one of the most uniquely satisfying takes on the one-man army trope. If you're looking for non-stop action and a truly unforgettable protagonist, this is it.